Yo, what's going on, guys? And today I wanted to talk about the Washington Wizards. And arguably, this team, depending on how you see either having superstar talent or depth being more valuable, is how you would view this team. I view this team got equally better. Like, I think they genuinely made up for the loss of Russell Westbrook. I mean, obviously, Russell Westbrook went ham at the end of the season, and that can't be recreated by anybody or any amount of players because that's just superstar talent. Now, they got a haul of players. They've gotten the 3-and-D player that they've wanted for years in Contavious Caldwell-Pope. They got Kyle Kuzma, who arguably is with Contavious Caldwell-Pope, is one of the best defenders on this team now, and he could really help them at the forward spot where, questionably was one of their weaker positions when at times. And then you have the center position where it's a little interesting, but they brought in Montrezl Harrell, which will help with offensive, interior scoring. Now, before we start today's video, I want to hear your thoughts down below. I believe the Washington Wizards could be this year's New York Knicks. I think Bradley Beal, if he can get back to the defensive competence that he was at a few years ago, where he was pretty freaking good and was arguably an all NBA defender. And what I truly believe is that this team, Wes Unseld's a guy who's going to coach deep. Okay. John Hopkins' brain went to Loyola Blakefield in Maryland, which is like 5 minutes away from my parents' house. And look, this is something that I believe we're going to see a lot of forward play. Let's just go in and talk about this roster right through it. And I believe that at the very bottom, this team will make their floor is the play-in. But I really think that this team can be between the 6th and 4th seed. I think the 4th seed's a little bit of a reach, but the 6th seed is something that I really can see. And look, if we look at this roster, the starting lineup for next year is going to look like most likely Spencer Dinwiddie and Bradley Beal. And then you go over to, the wing position. That's where I think it gets interesting with how the lineups are going to look. Is it going to be our man's Roy Hichimara, who had some struggles, but he looked pretty solid and he improved, and Kyle Kuzma, or will be Kuzma and Contavious Caldwell-Pope, with Caldwell-Pope playing the small forward position, Kyle Kuzma at the power forward position, and then you go over to center, most likely, I think it's Daniel Gafford, unless he still has conditioning problems, which were a question and one of the reasons why Gafford didn't play a lot of minutes or didn't, mainly play like the fourth quarter was because of conditioning. He just plays at 100% all the time. And Montrezl Harrell, former 6th man of the year, is better suited coming off the bench. And Thomas Bryant, he can defend better than Montrezl Harrell, not as well as Daniel Gafford, but he's a stretch 5. So, and they got 2 other guys, Jay Huff and Jamie Inchinki, who I don't really see much from them. So I look at this roster, and the lineups that they could have are endless, because I think this year, if you look at the wings, I really think Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Denny Abdia will round out playing small forward mainly, and Corey Kispert. I think Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Denny Abdia, and Corey Kispert are going to be mainly this team's wings, with Kyle Kuzma maybe getting some time at the small forward position, but primarily Caldwell-Pope, Denny Abdia, Corey Kispert will be, with some Kyle Kuzma, primarily the team's small forwards. Then you go over point guard and shooting guard. That's where it gets interesting, where point guard, I think it's Spencer Dinwiddie, backed up by Raul Neto and Aaron Holiday, and then Cassius Winston, who's on a 2-way. And you look at guards, I think it's Bradley Beal being the starting, obviously, shooting guard, with Contavious Caldwell-Pope playing some minutes there. Same thing with Corey Kispert. And I believe we could see maybe Raul Neto. He played some there. He's an undersized 2. He can play there. So I really think we'll see there. Aaron Holiday, because they have like a really, really good defensive lineup, if you look at this. Because I think Daniel Gafford, backed up by Montrezl Harrell and then Thomas Bryant's what's going to happen. So I think their lineup will be really interesting. I think also Contavious Caldwell-Pope is really good friends with Bradley Beal, if you guys didn't know that. They're like really good friends. But I think a really good defensive lineup that could make this is Contavious, Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma, Gafford, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Bradley Beal would be one of the better defensive lineups that they could have, you know? And I would love to see Thomas Bryant come back as the same player where he was. And look, in the last 23 games, Westbrook went 23 points per game, 14 assists, 13.5 rebounds while making 46% of his shots. You can't recreate that. But look, this team could have a really, really good guy. They got a respectable star in Dinwiddie who's probably having a chip on his shoulder coming off injury. Caldwell-Pope's a 3D guy that they needed. Kuzma gives them a quality forward, which they didn't really have last year. And Holiday and Harrell give them great depth. So, look, I think Denny Avdia is more of a 3 than a 4. I think Roy Hachimura is more of a 4 than a 3. Kuzma's a 4 who can play the 3. And then there's Davis Bertans, who they gave a big deal. And look, if he can hit down the threes, but I think it's just so interesting when you look at this is like, what is our guy Davis Bertans? Okay, I think Davis Bertans is interesting. There's Isaiah Todd there, who I don't expect to play much, but I look at this team, and this team could be really, really good defensively. Like Beal, if he plays good defense, Dinwiddie, he can play good defense. Contavious Caldwell-Pope can play good defense. Then you got Raul Neto, who can find a way to get steals, which is incredible. Always he's getting steals. Then you got Kyle Kuzma, who's a good defender. Roy Hachimura has flashes of being a decent defender. And then they got shooters in Davis Bertans, you know, Corey Kispert. Anthony Gills can be a respectable defender, and he can hit down the shot. And Aaron Holiday is a great defender, a great point of attack, probably one of their better defenders. He can come out there. And then you also got, you know, Thomas Bryant, Daniel Gafford, who are good defenders, and Montrezl Harrell can give a scoring punch. I really think this team could be one of the better defensive teams, and they have the 3-point shooting to complement it. So I think that's where, in a nutshell, when you look at this, like, hey, I do think this team can be one of the better defensive teams, and if they are one of the top defensive teams in the league, I think they could be closer to that 4 seed than closer to the play-in. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Am I just stupid for thinking this? Is this stupid? I don't think it's stupid. I feel like there's some validity here. I really do. I think this team can be good. But yeah, so that's my video on the Washington Wizards. So I want to hear your thoughts, comments. 4th seed, 6th seed, more likely than the 4th. And the floor is the play-in. Let me hear those thoughts.